Living life as an older 50, 60, 70 is wonderful. It's filled with experiences. It's a unique journey that you're on, but you're also in adventures together with others. There's three topics I want to bring to the foreground today that I want to share with you now about living a legacy life, living that hale and hearty life with legacy. So I would encourage you to think about, explore, discover, go into yourself and look at your emotional connections with yourself and with others, and to take a look at this intergenerational connections. Yes, there's connections with those who are of the same aging time in life, but there's also this intergenerational connections. You might find something really wonderful there. And then there is this finding community. Where is it that you can find those who share your interests? And these three topics came out of my conversations about what's top of mind for olders 50, 60, 70. And they were linked with other explanations, I guess, descriptions around remaining relevant and isolation and depression, feeling stagnation, some elements like that. And I dug a little deeper with the persons I was having a conversation with, and I said, let's find a way in which to bring this to the foreground about what is it that is happening for you from a connection point of view, a community point of view, that would get you feeling those other feelings. And that's why I wanted to bring this out, because I think there's something here to unfold that would be of value to remember about the emotional connections with self and with others. This intergenerational connection, even though I know there's generational connections, and this sense of finding community around our interests and our values. And that's why I wanted to just share some ideas with you. And I'm going to use a slightly different approach. I'm going to use a little bit more of a presentation approach in this video to bring some of the ideas out and also to just share some stories with you. Emotional connections refer to the deep bonds we form with others through shared experiences, vulnerability, and genuine care. There's a base definition for you. This emotional connection is, I've leaned into really appreciating what this means. And I went so far as to do some reading around the emotional quotient, trying to figure out what do emotions mean, energy and motion, because I tended not to go into responses that had emotions attached to them. I went in with logic, and it didn't always work. And along the way of my trips to different parts of the world, I had to sometimes move out of the logic into the emotion. What was I feeling so that I could use it to connect with someone? And that opened up a lot of other possibilities. I remember being in a restaurant with a working acquaintance, and we got into a little bit of a tussle because of what it is that I was looking to have happen over the next couple of days. And she wasn't ready to be able to get to that because she didn't know how to really introduce me to her boss. And we needed to figure out that connection between her and I before she could figure out how to connect me with the boss. And it made sense afterwards. But at the time, I'm going, no, I'm here for a reason. Let's get on with it. And I went, oh, afterwards, in my reflection, I went, oh, there's a good learning for me. And what is it that, or what's a situation you found yourself in where you realize that you really, if you dig a little deeper into that emotional connection, it actually made for a better connection and you were able to get to your goals, your outcomes in a much better, simpler, wiser, kinder way? And that's something that was really important for me. When I talked to Jim about this emotional connection, he was he was at a point in life where a lot of medical aspects were coming in on top of him. They seemed to be just cascading in. And he shared about his connection with his wife and what did that mean, knowing where they both were in terms of their um, life, their aging dash, as I call it. And he said, you know what? I actually came to appreciate more about the emotional connection that I had with my wife because of what I was going through. And I could see there was a really deep resonance there for him because he actually cried. There was a tear that appeared and a few flowed. And when we sort of looked at it, felt through it, sensed through it, he was sharing a deeper sense of his experiences, but he was also being quite vulnerable with me. And through our conversation, he said, you know, I haven't been vulnerable like this with another man around this story with my wife. So thank you. And I thought, well, that's quite the gift. And I saw it as a sense of caring. And that became really important for me because over the years, I understood careless and careful. And careful was I was taking care of someone at my expense. Careless is I was taking care of myself at others' expense. But caring was when we're sharing it together. So that experience I was having with Jim and that vulnerability and what he shared with me, then I could call that genuine care. And that became really important. And what this did was it said to me, okay, what are some ways I could pass along for yourself if you find yourself in situations where emotions were coming out or you wanted to go into the emotions to figure out that connection? And what I would encourage you to do is engage in active, sometimes I call conscious listening, is really be present in that listening and not jumping to a response, doing what I call the credibility pause. Just slow it down and just, oh, okay, and then respond rather than react. What Jim brought to me was to share vulnerably, and I thank him for that. And that was recent. It's not that I didn't know it, but it really came to the foreground because of Jim's conversation with me. And I'm thinking about it now. That was about 6 months ago, so that was a great gift that he gave me, and it's showing up here. And this idea of prioritizing quality time. Uh, you can give time to persons, you can be present with persons. Can you get it to be quality presence while you're with that person and yourself? My quality time is when I'm writing or doodling. I have a rocking chair just over here, a big window. I can see the eastern slopes of the Rocky Mountains. I've got my doodle pens, my pads, and I go over and do reflection and just thinking about things that I can get connected with. And because of where I am now and sharing these videos, there's a lot more emotion comes out over there that is then translated into here in the words that I'm using. So I'm hoping that that's a great example for you. When it comes to intergenerational connection, remember I mentioned there's generational connections if you're 50 and someone's 50, but if you're 60 and someone's 20s, there's an intergenerational connection. I was talking to a chap, Steve, and he did, I would probably reframe this. How did he say it? He went with purpose and talked to someone in his family connections so that they would write a book, an intergenerational book, like an allegory about life and trains and train station. And they shared each other's stories with one another and wrote a book. I'll put a link to that book down below. And he was sharing how it became really important for him to do this intergenerational connection because he saw it in a lot of other aspects of his life, and he wanted to strengthen it and show others a way in which to do that, thus the book. So, intergenerational connection refers to the relationships and exchanges between people of different generations. I think the story of Steve makes sense there. But sometimes we forget this and we zip on by this intergenerational connection. And it's something that I'm not wanting to just zip by anymore. And thus, I wanted to share a couple of things with you. You could mentor younger individuals. I think that's where a lot of olders might fall into. Oh, I could mentor, I can get involved with a service club, mentor youngers. But sometimes what happens is we go to that too quickly without just taking a little pause, go back to that credibility pause and listen to yourself and go, what other ways might I engage, connect with youngers? You could initiate conversations with youth that are in your family of friends because there is lots of connections that are there. Unfortunately, this one is not one that I really have in my own family. I'm a solo ager, so I tend to not have any of that kind of connection. And I find myself not in so many family outings with other families now, with friends. And I found that kind of interesting here a couple of weeks ago. And I went, interesting. So I thought about the next one, and I'm doing that collaborate on projects because one of my legacy projects is awareness from forests. And I'm wanting to get into learning about agroforestry and regeneration and rewilding because those are terms that are connected to my life. They have a bit of an academic flavor, but they're certainly showing up in everyday language. And if you go over to Awareness from Forest channel, the short form is Awareness, you'll see where I'm going to be taking up that storyline. But in there, I want to write some books. Well, a particular type of book is an activity book around awareness of what is agroforestry and regeneration and rewilding in such a way as that intergenerational conversations could take place because of these activity books. Last year, I attempted one, learned a lot. So in 2025, I'm going to take more effort to create this kind of activity book. I'll put a link to the 2023 book just so that you can see what I'm talking about. But it's actually to collaborate on the projects and find some designers and some story sharers and some persons who want to shoot some videos, and maybe I can be with them and help them. And okay, there might be a word like mentor in there, but initiate conversations and deepen, enrich, and do it through this intergenerational concept, this intergenerational unfolding that we can have, and bring that emotional aspect out that I've just shared with you. I think that would be a lot of fun. And so, how can you, around your interests, find ways in which to get into some intergenerational connections, some intergenerational conversations? Let me know down below how you might be doing it in the comments section. I would appreciate that. The next area I wanted to take a look at is finding community. Community to means if you look, there's common unity. It's the level of commonness that unifies us together, and that's what spells community. So it means engaging in groups or networks where shared values, goals, or interests create a sense of belonging, befriending. And for me, this whole idea of community from an emotional connection, an intergenerational connection, and allowing those to flow freedom, find the freedom in that, I will find some communities. I'm thinking about creating one called Legacy Agora, a community of legacies. In other words, those who are working on their legacy projects, how could we get together and find community and find these intergenerational conversations, these emotional connections with each other as olders, 50, 60, 70. So keep an eye out for announcements around Legacy Agora as well. It's coming, and it's to create our own groups and networks to be able to have conversations that bring community to the foreground. And in my past work as a consultant and facilitator of teams and groups, I remember communities, and then there was communities of decisions, and it made its way up to what I now call communities of significant caring. I think you can see that storyline of carrying back to the other one. And I'll be bringing this to the foreground with you as we open up this legacy agora and what does community of significare really mean, and finding significance in caring and bridging those. But let me leave that as a bit of a seed right now, and maybe you can take that up and see where that takes you, and let me know again in the comments section. But where you share values with others and goals, like I have goals, they have goals, and we share them together, then they can become outcomes. I have my unique journey. You have your unique journey. Those you're interacting with have their unique journeys. But if we adventure together, what might come of it? Because what that does is it opens up this sense of belonging so that we can be in our being and having and doing, and therefore befriending each other. I think that would be a wonderful and interesting mix. And what all of this does is it opens up other possibilities in connection with what I was sharing earlier around what's top of mind for persons. And they were talking about remaining relevant, the idea of stagnation or loneliness or isolation, words like that sort of were deflating. Yet, if we use some of the words that we're talking about here, emotional connection, intergenerational connection, finding community, that is just billowing up possibilities for us and opportunities. And therefore, what I would do is encourage you to join local or online groups of your interest, organize social gatherings of family and friends, volunteer for causes like, for example, where I'm taking up legacy with agroforestry, regeneration, rewilding. I have a couple of projects I'm working on. You have yours. Again, put down below what you're wanting to get involved with. Or if you've already got a legacy project in play, put that down below too. I'd love to know what's going on, and maybe we could have a conversation about that and shoot a video and bring that story in here to really illustrate this sense of connections, right? And relationships and how they all unfold as we create community together. And I bring this forward because Lone and Panay, who I mentioned in another video, Panay is very much into community center and developing community. And I leaned into conversations with her because years ago, when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I was doing a lot of community work. It was through play and recreation and leisure. And I was working with the kids and then working with adults to support kids. And it was just a fun time to take a look at this sense of community and bringing all of us together into the aspects of play and that childlikeness. And I remember it now because I sort of bringing that back into some of these conversations that I'm having now. I'm moving a little closer to really bring this sense of how important these connections, relationships, community are about. There's something to be said for weaving that into our lives. There are times in the last couple of years where I didn't do that as much. And now I'm realizing that it's important. It's significant. It's something that is going to come to the foreground more and more. When I started thinking about it in relationship to my Awareness from Forest channel, I started to realize that I had been missing it. And that's why I wanted to chat about it today, because I think it's important for me to say it out loud, as I would encourage you to say it to yourself out loud, the importance of connections and community. So if I can be of assistance at any time, just drop a comment or use the contact form on the website and reach out that way. But there are some workshops that I'm thinking about doing around connections and community and legacy. If this is of interest to you, pop that into the comments as well. I would really appreciate that. So, with that, take care. There are lots of videos available on the channel, and the ones that are recommended to you right now, give them a look. Take care.